Hey there, in today's video, I am sharing a little bit about the holiday art market that I was just a part of. Something that I don't actually do very often, but I want to show you the things that I took. It's a very, I think, more of affordable, so it's not large pieces of art or anything like that. It was just some of my smaller things, which I'm really glad to be a part of, and obviously always am interested in selling, more affordable art and things that are smaller in size, because I tend to work a little bit bigger, as you can see behind me. I enjoy massive pieces, but I'm also, so I'm gonna share some of the things I took, and then I'm gonna show you a little bit about the setup and what I did there. And then at the very end, I'm gonna share some takeaways, a few of my thoughts about what this prompted me to think about in my art moving forward. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Here's a selection of the 8x10 matted art that I'm doing. 8x10 is the actual mat. The artwork inside is obviously smaller, and these could be popped into a frame. But I just thought I'd give you a quick show of the ones, oops, they're turned upside down. These are the ones pretty much that I have, selected to be like prominent. I have more, but again, I think it's important to put out your favorites and then restock as you have room. I'm trying to keep it a little bit more minimalist this time. And you can see a lot of the ladder themes that there's a number of them with ladders, and all of them are mixed media. Most of them have some kind of collage element underneath or over top, paint, graphite. Some even have oil pastels, different things. So anyway, here are a selection of the 8x10 matted that I wanted to show you. All right, here's a selection of the 5x7s. And last year at this event, I only took 5x7s. I did not do 8x10 matted art. And so because I'm not taking any large canvases this year, I decided to take the 8x10 matted. And I'm keeping everything, as I think I've mentioned before, I'm keeping everything very affordable. I think everything's under $50. So, and some as low as 10 and I have these, anyway, I'll show you the little things for 5 in a minute. But okay, so these are just one, again, you could buy in a little collection and have like 2 in a 5x7 frame or 3, however you desired to put those out, a lot of ladders. And again, these are like the ones that I kind of chose that I thought I liked the best. I don't know what happens. They get stuff on them. I better set that one aside, see if it's on the inside or the outside. And so it's amazing how interesting they look once they're behind a mat. When you have them without that, I guess it's like peeling the tape off a whiteboard, around. I don't do that very often, but it's that same cool effect. It's like, oh, it looks so much better in a mat. So anyway, these are the, the initial collection of 5x7s. Here's the container that I'm using, just a kind of an old rustic tin to display. These are called, I call them book cover art. They the substrate is a book cover, and some of them have, collage and all kinds of different elements. Some have encaustic medium over the top. They all are multi-layered. Some have fabric, and I'll kind of show you. So these are just ones, I have more in a bin that I'm taking with me, but these are just kind of the ones I'm highlighting today. So here, let's start with this side. Okay, so and then a lot of them I have words and things that are somewhat meaningful. And this one is all fabric and then some stitching. This one, encaustic with words and fabric. So it kind of goes back and forth, fabric. And these are, a lot of them have modeling paste with kind of stenciling, so it's raised. There's just very layered, very, very layered. And for years, I worked a lot with these book covers and doing other things. And now I use them, the substrate for this purpose. So just a lot of experimenting and just trying new things. And I think they're kind of fun. You could put them on a easel. You could give them as a gift. You could, especially if the word is meaningful to you. So I tried to find a lot of different words, and it's been fun to use different fabrics and different medium it's just another way to be creative, and I really enjoy doing this. This is taking like little pieces of art and putting that on, and then I put encaustic over the top. But again, a lot of it just different fabric pieces and with words and text. So these are the kind of the bigger sized book covers and book cover art, and I'll show you the minis in just a second. So the minis I have just in this little wooden, I have so many little cute little wooden pieces or vintage like this tin here that I just love using those. I don't have anything that is, I didn't go out and buy display pieces is what I'm trying to say. I just am trying to use what I have and then just making things fit. And I think it gives a fun vibe, and which is my vibe. So which is, I think is fun, and using rustic things, and it makes it a little more organic, I think. Okay, so here's the little minis, which I think are super fun. They also can be, you could give them as a gift. You could have them on an easel, a little mini easel. They have words. A lot of them have words. A lot of them are fabric. Some are encaustic. In the past, I have done quotes years ago, and actually I think I have a few left on my website. If you're interested, I will link that below. It's called book cover quote art or something like that. And they are quotes that I have debossed actually, with a metal tool that you would use in leather making, and then did these quotes. And I've stopped doing that. It was very time intensive, and so there's a few left if you're interested in checking it out. And so anyway, I'm having a lot of fun using the book covers because I had collected so many in a different way. So in caustic and in fabric pieces. So again, just all over the place, doing all kinds of different, some are, more text, some are less, some are fabrics, some are, encaustic. I think it's fun to explore and try all kinds of different mediums. And I'm really loving the fabric stuff. I just find it very, I don't know, it's just so unique and so textural. I really like that. And just even doing a little bit of stitching, which is fun too. So yeah, these are ones that are in this little bin, and I have a lot more of those. So if they start selling, I have more of that I can fill in with. These are the greeting cards that I've made. I remade a bunch of them, painted on top of them. What I've discovered is, as much as I like to sell abstracted cards, I think in this day and age, it's very difficult for people to go, oh, I want to buy that, and then what am I going to do with it? Because I want something that says either happy birthday or best wishes or congratulations or whatever. I am not necessarily going to send just an abstract art card to someone. People don't mail much anymore, and they don't, so I am kind of switching gears with the greeting cards I'm making to make them more sense. So I'm taking only cards that to me make sense for people that are interested to buy. So in this case, birthday cards. So I have a video, I think, on the what I call wonky birthday cake cards, and I just kind of sketch them in, do them over the top. These were over the top of there was a background that again didn't probably make sense, maybe even to me, and so I redid them all with just birthday cakes because I figure that is something that people are interested in getting a card for. So the other thing I decided was I have cards with flowers on them. I think you can see these little flowers. So I just did some wonky vases with flowers, some very simple flowers coming out of it. That is another thing I think people might buy, is something that is, you give flowers, or you might use this for a variety of different things. Now here's the thing. I don't want to make art to sell, because when you do that, then you take away your inner soul almost. So I don't make art like, oh, it's going to sell, blah, blah, blah. I mean, as you can see, none of this is traditional. This is not a traditional bouquet. This is not a traditional birthday card, cake, whatever. I make things that I like, and then if other people it resonates with them, that's great. But if not, then these are cards that I can use and I feel good about, sending out. The thing I was mentioning about making art to sell, the problem is, then you're trying to second guess what customers might like, and if you stay true to yourself, whether they like it or not, it doesn't reflect. It's not the value isn't, your value isn't based on whether someone buys a card from you. And I guess I'll keep moving through. So I had a lot of fun making these, and this might be something I do more. I'm just going to focus maybe on making these wonky vases with flowers, and then birthday cakes, because those are things that people tend to be more interested in if I'm going to sell them, because once you get a little bit abstracted, it's like, what is that? What would I do with that card? So I've had people frame them, but I have the 5x7s. You could, if you want to frame something. So this one is a little different, with the bottle, and it's a little more abstracted. But I liked the ladder that was going up there, so I kept that. And then here's some more. Now this one, I kind of went back and forth. I was thinking I would do a bunch of collage pieces. I've seen some really cute cards with coffee cups. Here's the thing, it's just, I'm not that good at it. And also it's really not my thing. And so I did a few, and then I decided to keep this one. But in general, I have to stick to what my vibe is, who I am, and this is not me. I think it does turn out okay. It's cute, but it's probably not something that I will continue doing. I love learning new things and trying new things. And I had a lot of fails in this, but this is something I probably won't, and you got to try it to know. So this was I do a lot of faces, and I thought, how can I make this resonate with somebody versus just sending them a card? So I put a little kind of necklace on her with some cute words: grateful, kind, authentic. And I thought, I could see someone using this card in that way versus like just a random face. So I'm going to put that over here too. And then I did do a few I was in the collage scheme of things, making, I was doing coffee cups and all kinds of shapes and stuff. I thought, I should do some trees like for Christmas or whatever, so people might be interested. And so I used just random collage paper and layered them. And I think they turned out kind of fun. Whether or not they'll sell that's a whole nother story. But again, these are things, because it resonates with me, these are cards that I will use, all of them, whether anybody buys or not. And I hope that comes through loud and clear, because obviously we can't, I guess you could make art just specifically in the hopes that someone else will like it if you don't like it. I try to really stick with the things that I like, and I look at something really hard and I go, do I love this? Do I think this is, I do. So then it's okay, then I want to keep it. But if I don't love it, then maybe somebody else will, but maybe they won't. And then, so I have to I'm picking and choosing, especially for this holiday market that I'm going to be in. I'm really trying to just take the best things instead of taking everything. So I'm trying to really curate it. I'm not selling a lot, keeping my price point low, and seeing how that goes. Another thing I'm selling are these 4x4 mini canvases. And most of these are collaged or using collage paper. They're very simple designs, and they're kind of designed to go together as a set. So let's just say, I have some over here, maybe a set of 6. Or I actually, my favorite is a set of 9. And let's see, let's grab these over here. So anyway, I have about 40 or 50 of these. Oops, you can't quite see it. Let's move that up. And so then I am selling these. And this is another thing that I've kind of gone back and forth. When I did the holiday show last year, none of these sold. And I think part of it was they didn't really make sense. I had a very cluttered table in that I felt like I had curated it really well and had it laid out really design-wise. But this year, it didn't make sense. They were all over the place and things were not together. So this year I am doing like the matted 5x7s are next to the matted 8x10s. These are on a display that my husband's made for me, and I'll try to drop in a photo of that because it's too big to show you right here. The greeting cards are all together. And what else do I have? The book cover art, the minis and the regular size art, those are in 2 bins kind of set together. So I'm not trying to like move things all over the place and have one thing here and one thing there. I think it didn't make sense last year, even though I did pretty well. I didn't sell any of these canvases, and I didn't sell any of my big canvases. So I'm not taking any big canvases. It's just an afternoon holiday art market, so it's a very limited time. And the customers come in and they really are looking for lower price point items, and that's great because I have a lot of these small things that I would like to sell because I've let my family come through multiple times and say, take what you want. And I would love for these. I would love people to have affordable art that they can have in their home or give as gifts. So that's kind of my point. So these are the 4x4s, and so I just kind of want to show you. I paint the sides black. I do a spray seal over the top of them, but other than that, just because there are a lot of mixed media, and that's all. They're very easy to do. So anyway, and I do like the thicker, chunkier, because they will stand if someone wanted to stand them on a desk or on a shelf or something. The last thing I wanted to show you is that I'm also selling these paper shreds, vintage book paper shreds and vintage map paper shreds. And they look basically, like this. So I put them in like baskets that I give away, or like sometimes if I'm wrapping a gift and it needs some cushion, I reach for these because I think it's fun and it's reusing, what I have. So the reason I'm even taking these and selling these is because I had these from the year past, and I thought, because the way I had things displayed last year, no one even looked at these either, and maybe no one will look at them this year at all either. But I have them in a kind of a way. I have room for them kind of up on a little stand, and so I'm gonna sell these, and I only have a few bags. So if I get rid of them, great, because I have plenty myself, not just in this bin, but a whole bin full of shreds. So anyway, this might spur you on to think, if you have some old books and you're just wanting to okay, I can only use so much for collage paper, what else can I do with it? You can use your paper shredder, make sure there's nothing else in it, and then shred up a bunch and then just put it in a bag or something, and then you'll have it ready. Or maps. I think maps are kind of fun too if you want a little bit of blue, a little bit of color. If you want it to be, more beige, then obviously the vintage books work better. So, but you could pretty much do anything depending on the look you were going for. So this is the last thing I wanted to share with you. And so I'm basically ready for the show. But I wanted to show you things before I left in case I didn't have anything when I came back, in terms of, showing you. And I'll get some photos, or hopefully maybe even some video while I'm there. The last thing I wanted to show you is how I check people out. Now, obviously there's good old fashioned cash, which at events like this, people do tend to bring cash at times. So I do have a little bit of cash to give as change if I need to. Most people will pay by credit card. And so I use an app called Square, and I just wanted to show you, it's pretty easy. It connects to a card reader, and I just scroll in here and say someone's buying, the book cover art. I just click on that, review the sale, and then if I'm going to charge them, I click charge, and then they tap the card reader. So it's as simple as that. I also will take along a little block that has my Venmo. I would like people to have all the options in terms of paying me, because I think that makes it easier in this day and age. Some people want a Venmo, some people want to use credit card, some people want to use cash. I want to have that available to everyone. But I just wanted to show you, you can have, the Square app is very affordable and it's very easy to use. So it can be as complicated as you need, but for someone like me who only, uses it once or twice a year, it's very easy to use. And I've just found that it's very handy to have when you go to a show like this, and it just gives other options, and it takes all the credit cards and different forms of payment. So I just kind of want to round it up with this and show you how I take payment. After showing you a little bit about what art pieces I took to the holiday art market, and then a little bit about my setup, it was a very, very small show, very curated. Only, I think, 15 artists had were selected to have a table at this show. It's a cute old building in kind of south of Seattle. And the reason that I even considered it a year ago, and I had a great success a year ago, was because it's just an afternoon. I've had, different experiences with doing art shows in general. And so anyway, I'm going to back up. So the first thing I want to say is try. Okay, so let's say you want to share your art. I think it's good to try. Try to do by putting yourself out there, sharing your art, selling your art, even hanging your art somewhere can be scary and very vulnerable because our art is personal. It is a part of who we are, and as we're sharing that, we're hoping that the world will say, "Wow, that is super cool," or "I would like to buy that," or "I'd like a piece of that," right? But what I'm going to say is, I have tried many things. So. Over like 2 or 3 years, I decided I wanted to be in juried shows. So I would submit to a juried show, and then you only get into maybe, 1 in 5 or something, and it's up to the curator who is jurying it and the jury, and that's fine. So then I would go to these openings or see where it's hung, and I'm not kidding you, I think every single time I was deeply disappointed. And here's why. You have all these 100 different artists with 100 different ideas of what their art is that are in, and then you're hanging them all together. And I think that they do the best they can to place the pieces, but I always felt like my art was just hung in with a bunch of things that didn't make sense. So after doing that, after submitting for 2 or 3 years, and it's not cheap. I mean, here in Seattle, or I applied in Washington and Oregon. It can be anywhere from $30 to $50 to apply to get in. And if you don't get in, you don't get the money back regardless of whether you get in or not. So that is something to consider. But I had committed to that because I wanted to try. What I discovered after that 3-year period was that is not something I want. I go and my art, I feel like it looks worse in those scenarios. So that was something I decided not to continue to pursue. It doesn't mean that sometimes I don't look at that and go, maybe I would submit to that. And here's the thing, if we decide we're going to do something and then not do something, doesn't mean it's forever. It means, we can certainly change our minds. And I hope that you're open to that. I just want to share a few of mine where, you try something and maybe it doesn't work. I have kind of some notes over here, so don't forget. So maybe yours is to, do an art market like I did this last weekend. I've done several and bigger over several days. And I think I've discovered that maybe that is also not my niche. It's not my thing. So again, it's always good. It's good to try things because you do not know unless you try. And it isn't about being, in my opinion, well, obviously there is something about having success in those things, but I don't think it's always about that. It's like, I don't know that I fit in here, and that is okay, and that's good to know. And it's good to know yourself and to think about those things. But there's other things like sharing on social media, creating a website where you can send people to see your art. And that is a creative endeavor in and of itself, and it forces you to kind of, pull things together and figure out what you like. And for some of us, it's like, okay, I gotta really concentrate and figure out how to put this all together. But those can be a great avenue for sharing and also for selling. Also, obviously, YouTube. I mean, any one of you who are watching this who makes art, you also could do this. It's not like I just have my phone. I now have some lights. I have a very basic editing. As some of you may complain, it's like, oh my gosh, your editing is terrible. But again, I'm just wanting to share. So considering all the ways that you would like to share your art, I would say the top of it is to try a few things to see what resonates with you, and because you don't know unless you try. So that's my first takeaway. And I will say one of my favorite things to do is we have a local thing called an art walk, and different businesses in the neighborhoods in Seattle will host an artist, and the artist puts their art up, and if you're lucky and you get into like a cafe that has bare walls or a wine tasting room or something, which both of those I have been in, it's awesome because guess what? You're the curator. You're the one who gets to decide where things go and how things are put up. And I feel like that's a very special and a very sweet opportunity regardless of if anything sells. And I will be honest, most of the time, very little of my art will sell. But it's about seeing it up on walls and actually engaging with other people about my art. So that is a super cool thing. But it only happens if you try. If you say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to give it a shot, I'm going to maybe approach that cafe, or I'm going to go to some art walks if there's something in your area. So, okay, number 1, try. Number 2, consider. So this is all going to reflect back to the art walk, because it's all about putting yourself out there. So one thing to consider, and I guess I should pull my notes over here. You guys don't care if I'm looking, right? How much time, energy, and I'm even going to say money, do you want to put into something like a holiday market, an art market, a art fair? Because don't kid yourself. It does involve all those things. So I had to prep all the stuff that I was going to take, make sure, like I think I showed in a prior video, some of the stuff that I had in some of my matted art, and even some of my greeting cards had sun exposure or light exposure. And so I had to redo them or completely not use them altogether. And so prepping all the things, getting it ready to sell, then even if, whether you have a tent you have to buy or rent, or a table, making sure it's all laid out, you have the right size, you have things to display. Now, I tend to opt not to purchase anything to display my art because I don't do it all the time. So I run around and looking for boxes and bins around my house, old things and different things. So I really try to think outside the box, little suitcases and stuff. So that works for me, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy to do those things. And financially, typically there's a cost or a fee. Now, the one I was just recently in was very inexpensive, so that the fee was almost nominal. But there's many in the greater Seattle area that I know. I was talking to the artist next to me, and he pays, $800 for a weekend show, or so there can be a big financial commitment to something like that, which I'm not willing to do at this point. Anyway, I'm just saying that. So considering all that. So for me, then, and the other piece is, then you also have to figure out, besides your art, besides the display, besides the financial piece, whether it's a table, chairs, a tent, whatever you happen to have, there's also, you have to figure out how to take payment. And so, getting all that stuff lined up. Now, if you do it all the time, obviously it's no big deal, but there are things to consider, and they do, like, if you don't do it very often, for me, it's like, oh, I got to relearn that. I got to refigure these things out. If you did it all the time, every weekend, all summer long, obviously, it would be a breeze. You just reuse the same things and it would be no problem and you'd be good to go. So, but I just want to mention that is one thing I was considering as I was driving to that holiday market was, where do I want to put my energy? And this was prior to the event ever starting, is this what I want to put my energy into? Do I want to spend the better portion of 2 weeks pulling things together, figuring out a display, mapping out what I'm going to do, all of those things? Or do I want to focus on what I really enjoy doing, which is sharing my art over YouTube? Maybe I do some work on my website, updating it, so that when I drive people there, things look friendly and welcoming, and maybe there's some interesting things. Maybe there's some other ideas I have besides doing an art market. So those are things I have to consider because I want to know where I'm going to put my energy. And quite honestly, like most of us, we live busy lives. So there's just things that keep all of us, we already have full lives. So what I'm saying is the energy that's over and beyond that, where do we want to put it? And so for me, what I discovered is that probably an art market, although it was fine, it's probably not where I'm going to devote my energy. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't started considering the time, the energy, and the cost of that. So, okay, so the third thing, got my notes, is remember, okay? And this was key for me because one of the things that happens is we think, and I include myself in this, that sales, here's what I'm going to rephrase that. What we sell, how our art, or if our art sells, does not define who we are as artists or as people. I think it can be very hard to separate ourselves from our art because it's so personal. When our art is rejected, we feel rejected. And so I think one thing to remember in a holiday market, or anytime you're trying new things, whether it's submitting to a juried show or trying to sell on a website, whatever it happens to be, we can't control. We can put it out there, we can share it. We can't control the people who look at it, the people who like it, the people who don't like it. Like this holiday market, I couldn't control that it was poorly attended. That it was poorly attended, and there's nothing I could do about that, right? That was just like this year, there weren't very many people that came. So that's going to impact sales, not just for me, but for all the other artists that were there and sharing. So I can take that personally, and kind of sometimes you do, but the real truth is that is out of our hands and it doesn't define us. So we can't, there's just so much about putting our art out into the world that we can't control. So what else do I have here? Another big piece, and I tell myself this all the time, my art, even the videos, because there's people who don't like my videos. People, you know, like, they don't like my art, and then that's okay, because art's very personal, and I can't take that personally, because it's not my art, and who I am as a person isn't going to resonate with everyone. We're all different. We all like different things and different people, and different art. If you and I were to look at a piece of art, you may like it, and I may not like it, and vice versa. So not every piece of art do I look at, do I actually like, and certainly would I not buy. Maybe I can go, oh, I really appreciate the way they did XYZ, but I wouldn't necessarily buy that and bring that home. So I think that's another element to remember, that our art is not going to resonate with everyone. And the big takeaway, at least for me, and what I want to remind everyone is, when you're remembering these things, is that that success it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen at every. And by success, I mean like selling a lot of our art. It's not going to happen at every show. I have a friend who makes jewelry, and she sells at art shows and craft shows all the time, and some are good and some are bad, and so it kind of evens out. But if you're like me and you don't do very many, then when one bombs, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like all lights are out. So I have to remember, like, some shows are good and some are bad, and if I did it all the time, it would probably even out. So to be brutally honest, this year I did 95% less, 95% less than I did last year at the same exact holiday art market. So for me, going into it will bring up the next feeling, the next thing, which is how we feel. It's okay to feel disappointment, because for me, it was an extremely disappointing show, because I didn't sell very much at all. And so I wasn't able to I was engage with people, because there just weren't as many people, and certainly people were not buying. And so I had to kind of sit in that disappointment and then realize, like, yeah, of course we're going to feel that way. Our art is personal. We are vulnerable when we sell it, when we share it. It feels personal. We're vulnerable when we do it. There are some things to think about, though, if this is something you're going to pursue and you're feeling the disappointment from a bad show. Like, for me, I had already kind of decided on the drive down that maybe this wasn't where I wanted to put my time and energy into. And so for me, this was a confirmation, like, yeah, I don't know that I want to give up a bunch of Saturdays or weekends to do this and wait for the odds to even out. I think there's other places I'd rather put my energy. So you get to decide. But if you decide to pursue it, then one thing to consider is, okay, I'm going to look at events that are known for being better attended, and maybe I'm going to have to pay more to get into those. But the odds are I will recoup that financial amount. And so, how do you pull yourself up when you've had a really disappointing event? And I think we have to learn not to take it personal, and that of course it's disappointing, but then just to come on and move on. And what can we learn from that? And then again, what can we do better? How can we make better decisions? And even though most of it's out of our control, there are times when we can choose maybe different shows, or we can choose to have better displays, or maybe be more engaging. There's all those things to consider. But if you've done all that, then odds are that's kind of what happens. And so feel your disappointment, and then do what I did. Go get Mexican food and a margarita, and boy, you just feel better by the end of the night. So I'm just saying, that was my husband's idea. My husband's idea to make me feel better, and it did, and it worked. So just know that you can. There's the successful times, but then there's also times when you're going to feel disappointment. Okay, the last takeaway, and I've probably talked a little bit about this already, but it's reflecting. So take a few minutes to reflect. And this is what I've been doing over the last week or two, is I've been really reflecting. Like, is this something I want to continue? Do I want to do some of these? How do I want to share my art? How is it? What do I want to pursue? And this can take time because sometimes we're stinging from something that we failed at. For me, maybe I'd go to the juried shows and I'd just be like, really? This is how it looks? I'd be so disappointed. It's like, oh my gosh, my art never looked worse. It is hanging right here in the middle between a replica of a train and a home or something. Anyway, it never ceased to surprise me. But what can I do? What is it that I want to do? And really consider and reflect on that. It might be something that you want to change. Maybe you don't do an art market again because it's just like, is it worth all the time and effort that it takes to do that? Not knowing an outcome. And of course, we never know the outcome. Whether it's social media is an easy one to do. I've kind of taken a break from social media, and by that I'm talking about Instagram primarily. I keep saying I need to get back on because I do like the platform itself. I just know that there's been so many changes in it, and I just kind of like the last 6 months have been almost completely absent. But I do love making videos. I do love sharing my art. I do love encouraging people. So I have to kind of stick to my lane. Is what I am really thinking about is, what is it that I primarily want to do? I want to make art, which is great. I want to encourage other people in their creative journeys, whatever that might look like. And so by reflecting on that, I can kind of stay true to that. Now, does that mean that I have to stay this way forever? No, but it means that for now, those are some things that I value and that I want to do moving forward. And then I don't necessarily want to get sidetracked with some of these other things that, although maybe they're good, they're maybe not as meaningful. And so I kind of want to focus, continuing with making videos and, promoting my website, and then probably getting back in a little bit into social media. So that's kind of that has been my process and my takeaway after this holiday art market. I wasn't actually thinking, I was going to have all these thoughts about it, but I thought, it might be helpful to share with any of you who are considering something like this, or just considering beginning to share your work, beginning to do something with your art, and don't really necessarily know, like, okay, what are first steps? I would just say just try things. Try it for a year, submit for a year, do something, but you have to do it more than once. And you have to, make a commitment to doing it, because we may fail, the first 10 times. We may fail the first 40 times. I don't know, but I don't know if I could keep going after that, but maybe. I read an article once about that you got to be willing to fail 100 times, and that by being willing to do that, you're bound to get in to whatever it is, at least at some point. So I do kind of keep that in the back of my mind, like, yeah, not every thing I do is going to be a success. So, but just press on, do the things that really resonate with you and that you find value in. And for me, like I've said a bunch of times already in this video, it's like sharing with you on YouTube, and I'm just going to continue to pursue that for now, and we'll see. Who knows where the future goes? And so I'd be curious, what your next steps are and things that you're going to try. But thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope some of these were helpful. And I just appreciate you guys all watching, and your kind words and your comments, and just so many thoughtful things that are such an encouragement to me all the time. So until next time, thanks for watching.